See, let me do that. There you
Oh
go.
my
Okay.
gosh, you guys are so, thank you so much. Jeff Mackey's life is full and varied. He was raised on a South Armagh farm. He studied biology in Liverpool, earned a doctorate on social networks business value. Now a strategic industrial advisor following successful corporate career. He's a charity fundraiser, award-winning writer, and Rotary leader living in England. Jeff, thank you so much for your patience.
Laurie, thank you very much for the introduction. I've had many introductions, and without doubt, that was the most recent. It's also a real pleasure to be with you here today, and I should thank Karen again for the invitation. It's an absolute pleasure to be with and part of the tribe, because I think we all spend our life in tribes, and this is a key one. What I'd like to do over the next 25 to 30 minutes is I'd like to share my journey, and I'd like to also talk about some of the reason that I believe there are ways we can be more aware of sustainability and carbon and climate literacy. I should also say at this stage of the conversation, I'm going to bring together a number of the threads in my life over the last decade, which includes an organisation called CAPE, Climate Adaptive Pathways for Education, and part of their mission statement has been plagiarized to advertise this meeting. I'll also talking about carbon literacy, and I'll also talk about my industrial journey. First and foremost, to start, there's a conversation, he said, moving the slides, just to set the scene about who and what I'm an old-fashioned farm boy who has been lucky enough to wear a suit. With my Rotary Club, I am Santa Claus, and we can be very clear about that. And my Rotary journey has been since I started as a Rotaractor back in the early 90s, including everything from Ryla through to building hospitals in Africa. Part of this conversation also is my industrial journey. Alongside Rotary, I spend time in Brussels and Westminster. I've worked within industry, and I worked for the largest chemical company in the world, BASF, as the European Sustainability Director. I currently sit on the UK Trade and Business Commission, and I do all sorts of stuff too dull to mention, but it's all part of who I am and what's got me here on this journey. First and foremost, let's be very clear. We've got one of these. And this is a conversation worth having, because part of what we need to do is we have to lift people and talk to people about the fact that, frankly, there is only one of these. I know there are plans to go to the moon, but the reality of the conversation right now is this is what we've got, and this is where person kind lives. The other reality is we've got to be very clear of why some of these conversations are taking place. Um, it's bad form to read on PowerPoint, but the reality is we need to do more. It's as simple as that. And part of my journey is about industry, is about science, and is about education. The literacy conversation for me is a part of this. Carbon and climate literacy needs to be better understood because of how it affects all of us in a whole series of ways. That's part of this conversation. The other part of this is that if we can have better conversations and actually weigh the trade-offs. Something I'm going to talk about as we go through this is the fact that we are all separated quite often by a common language. And I don't just mean my accent compared to my English friends, my American friends, my Indian friends. The reality is we use different words in different ways. And for different organizations, including the Rotary Association, good literacy will strengthen governance and strategy. Because at the moment, too many of our fellow Rotarians are not understanding what we're talking about when we talk about carbon and climate. I would also argue that this is an opportunity for our communities, our educational establishments, and our schools, as it gives us the opportunity to give people agency, linking the experience to what they see and hear in the news and the press. For this audience, I don't think I need to talk about what carbon literacy and climate literacy is. However, it's worth putting on the screen because actually, are we talking about the same thing? And that is a starting point for all these conversations. Carbon literacy, I live in Northern England. We've just had over 30 degrees for the last few days, and there's a conversation about that. The impact, the systems, and the choices we have to make. And for me, I'll talk about the boardroom to the classroom, because actually that has all been part of my journey. A very bold statement. Business as usual is not enough. We cannot tweak round the edges. We have lost that opportunity and we need to do more. That is not meant to be a political statement. It is not meant to be an environmental activist statement. It is a statement of fact. And we'll start the conversation from there. Depending on whose figures you take, 7 billion people in our world, they're talking about this rising to 10 billion. Take that as you will. We all have our different views on climate and what we as personkind do on this. That is part of this. What is clear is we are moving to mega cities. We are urbanizing and we are making requests of our systems like we've never done before. The consequences of an increase in global warming are real. I can argue this on a science level, I can argue this on a practical level, but the consequences are real, whatever other people say. I hope everyone on this call has actually seen this chart before. They were originally produced by Professor Ed Hawken in the University of Reading in 2018, and these are temperature change charts over time. If you haven't seen these before, I've put a web, they're free to access. You can see them, but they're a very stark example of how things have changed. And there are 4 charts here: England, Melbourne, Cape Town. What's happened? Very, very real, very, very stark. The other conversation is an economic one. We have got rising living standards across the globe. And I am aware I'm generalizing across all sorts of pieces. But for example, for those of us who live in the privileged West, what right have we to tell other parts of the world that they can't make the same mistakes that we have already made? And that is another thorny conversation. As my friends in academia would say, it's a very wicked problem. There's a conversation about more food being needed. I would argue that this is challengeable because it is only politics that stops us sharing the food we have better. But that in itself is a contentious statement. I can also talk about the energy mix and how much energy we're requiring, including for our little black boxes, the computers we live with and live on. When I started out in my working career, meetings like this would have to have been argued and booked months and years in advance. Today, people log in and log off across the world. That is a real socialization of communications. And there's a conversation about circularity and waste. Be very clear on the plastics conversation. I represented the plastics industry as part of what I did professionally, to talk about how to use the material and how not to use the material. There is a conversation there as well. I've put in various charts in this talk because some of them, I'm hoping we're all on the same page. I hope no one is surprised by this one. The reality is, if you are, please go and spend half an hour with the Brundtland report and have a good read. Ring me up and we'll have a chat. because I am a man of my nation. I'm very simplistic in both my thinking and my rhetoric. The reality is it's the balance of sustainability that we need to find. And that means different things to different people. You must always excuse my sense of humour. As an Ulsterman, the conversation starts, it's all about the environment. Of course it's not. Because the minute everyone's affected in different ways, and I've listed a few of those ways down the right-hand side. The iconic image of the polar bear, where does that stack against national security, public health, food security, and the rest? These are difficult and very, very challenging problems. When I talk about sustainability, I use this. This is one of my favorites. I also talk about my own children because, like everyone else's children and grandchildren, I hate mine and love them at the same time. That's part of what we do. But we don't inherit the land from our fathers, we borrow it from our children. And I would throw that out there. The urgency of climate change is clear. The Intergovernmental Panel Climate Change Assessment is there to be seen online. And this also takes me forward to link in with some of my academic colleagues. The work of CAPE, for example, some of the academic over the last 10 years, people like Hina and Lee, and again, have a look at the CAPE website and see what they're doing to try and start to build frames for these conversations. For me, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to be in some of the journey with them. I talk simply, do we follow the frog? What are we actually doing? Are we simply using the resources to boil the planet? And when we talk to our fellow Rotarians in the communities in which we live, perhaps some of these messages are too stark. They're too complicated. They're too big. And we need to talk about this. Like the UN SDGs. It means different things. And I'm not going to make this up. But again, lots of frameworks. So what I'm going to do in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to talk change literacy. Part of the reality for that is because I believe we need to ensure we learn how to have a shared framework. I'm also going to throw in some activities. And when I say education, I'm talking about from the boardroom to the classroom. Every one of us, every day, learns something new. I'm going to make this opinionated because I am opinionated about this topic. And I'm going to talk about what I talk about. Some of you will disagree with me. Some of you will want to argue, and that's great. The challenge we have is to look out at our fellow Rotarian and our fellow man and make sure we all start to appreciate, because I do not have all the answers. I do not believe there is one answer for what we're talking about. There is only our answer, and we all can do more. For a business, the business and societal challenge, what does climate change mean? What's the impact in industry? Is industry actually building this into our strategic thinking? When I'm working with colleagues in the Nordics, in Europe, in the UK, there's a conversation about impact and what it actually means. That also links back into education. Everything from schools to universities, back into the businesses themselves. What do we think is going to happen and what can we do about it? That's part of this. If we are to prepare industry for a sustainable future, this is actually a business strategy. I'm sorry to be dull, but this is a business strategy. It's an opportunity to manage risk. The reality is the impact in industry is real. And again, for different audiences, I've thrown 2 or 3 slides, but you can imagine for different audiences, I run workshops about this sort of thing. Manufacturing sectors, operations, there are black swans everywhere that ensure that we don't know what's going to happen. What is going to disrupt us? We need to look at resilience. We need to understand what that means if we are to have continuity. And we need to think about our society. What do we need compared to what we want? And that's a wonderful conversation over a good glass of something, if that is your choice of discussion mode. There's a conversation there as well. The energy transport, I've already mentioned energy. The decarbonisation, the defossilization. I worked for a chemistry business. You can't decarbonize. We're carbon-based life forms, but you can look at what we do with chemistry and the question of the energy demand, the fact that we're using it for everything from AI through to transport. We can think about this, we can do something different, and we can look at renewable energy. That's part of this. And you will all know this. This is not something that is unknown. And when I simply run workshops, I talk about resources. I talk about cost-effective processes, because this is language that business understands. Reduce, reuse, recycle is good business. Efficient business. Even engineers understand this. And the conversation about what we can reduce is simply good business. These are principles, but part of this is also to understand the framework on this, where education fits in. There's a perception, and I make no bones about these slides, they come from my great academic friends in Cape. There's a perception out there that schools are doing sustainability because they talk about litter picking, they have an eco council, they do recycling, they've planted some trees, they've had a charity link. Geography and science do that. Sustainability is more than all of these because it cuts through everything. Part of what we have to do is raise the awareness of the issues and the implications. That is more than science. It is also history, it is geography, and frankly, it is language. It is storytelling. For us on this call, and I make no pretense about this either, we are champions and advocates. These are the stories we have to talk about as we look to address the challenges that are with us today. For Rotary, there's a conversation about community organizations. We are the leaders in our communities. We can actually enhance and support formal education by what else are they doing in our church, in our halls, in our community groups? How can we help them with initiatives, with training programs? That community engagement is key because every single piece makes a difference. And actually for education, it is about the future. It's about equipping young people with the framework and the understanding to frankly make better decisions than many of our generation has made. Part of this conversation with education, and again, I mentioned CAPE because the Climate Adaptive Pathways for Education organisation is working with hundreds of schools in the UK. They've only been going formally a couple of years, but what they're trying to do is build a framework and encourage critical thinking so people understand what they're thinking about and see into this conversation. I would also throw this one in as an interesting aside. The reality of the conversation is climate change vocabulary. The challenge is we have different words being used for different things. Do we know what we're actually talking? What does decarbonisation mean? And when we talk about this, there's a conversation about teaching new words. Ensuring engagement with those words is something we all buy into. That's part of this conversation. And I would also argue, in line with what CAPE and the EEF said a couple of years ago, we need to make sure we have specific agreed vocabulary and words in relation to climate change. I've tried this with some Rotary clubs. Have you actually asked them what some of these mean? Because you will get a whole evening of entertainment and argument based on what is equity? What is our carbon footprint? What human influence have we had? And so it goes on. As I said right at the start, I am not someone with all the answers, but I've got a rough idea how big some of the challenges are. I would also throw in this, because one of the reasons that it's important to focus on this is because once you have got an agreed words and framework, it builds understanding of something that is very complex. It allows academic language and research to be developed, and it ensures we all have a frame for action. Because at the moment we don't. And if you come across the idea of polysemous vocabulary, polysemous words are words that have an everyday meaning and a scientific meaning. Here are 5. So please read this sentence, or read this. In climate science, carbon sink, feedback loops, climate lag, sensitivity measures. Let me give you a different sentence. The kitchen sink was blocked. Couldn't suss out the source of the problem. The feedback was I was being sworn at when I hit it with a hammer. I remain, and there in the space of a slide is 2 beautiful paragraphs to give you an idea how complicated this is talking about. Because it matters. It matters right now. It's getting worse and it matters. And we have to ensure we understand the effects that could come. These are macro effects, and we need to understand how this works. And this includes educating our policymakers and our politicians. I would argue that literacy affects culture, because actually there's lots of good intentions out there. We know that. Are we actually, I love the phrase, have you understood what I think I said? And there's a conversation. You know, when we're talking about literacy, do you understand what I think I said? There is a conversation. The skills and behaviors, all of this and all of the work I've been on for the last 10 years is about trying to get the scaffolding, the framework built to allow people to better credible, real information, fact, scientific fact. Look at how it affects things, definition, resilience, and these things can be built at scale. I've mentioned CAPE, one of the organisations I was connected to. I'd also mentioned the Carbon Literacy Project in the UK. Some people in this call will be aware of it, others won't. Have a look at the Carbon Literacy Project and what we have rolled out over the last decade. The reality is we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people learning some of what we're talking about. There's an agreed standard and there is a course. And in the UK and Ireland, we're starting to roll this out across Rotary as well. That's part of the conversation. So we all know what we're talking about as regards a framework. The benefits are there. Walking the talk, making a quantifiable commitment. And this is not about a small project. There's lots of wonderful projects out there. It's about people understanding enough to shift mindsets, to change values, and to change our culture. When I talk to my fellow Rotarians, I throw things like this in. What is the greenhouse effect? What are we talking about with footprints? What can you change to be more resilient? Think about inclusivity. Who is most exposed? Are we just outsourcing our liability? And. Systems thinking. But when I use terms like systems thinking, we have to be aware we scare people. We need to boil this down to what every one of us can do, and every one of us can do more. There are facts, there are myths, and again, we need to assault these head on. This is part of this conversation. The reality is we can do this, and we can make some big changes. Go back to pictures because it's buried in my soul. It should be an integral part of business. I don't believe business should only be about the economy. I also believe business has a responsibility to its people, to the people affected by the business, and the environment surrounding it. And that in itself is not an agreed statement, but it's one that I believe in. Learning can come at any time. Many of us on this call have one or two grey hairs. Some of us more than one or two grey hairs. But every day is a school day. Every one of us can think about and do more. And this is also where Rotary can fit in with taking the messages through our projects. When we talk to schools, when we work with community groups, when we're talking with everybody from pupils to our fellow Rotarians, because every one of us is a pupil every day. There is so much out there and it's something we can grasp. There's stuff we can do. I'm not going to preach, but you know, recycling, reuse, water, advocacy, talking about it, not using things, eating locally, eating in season, for some of us eating too much, consumption, transport, understanding enough to choose. I'm an old-fashioned farm boy from a long time ago. I regard farming as something that I've got a pretty good understanding of. It never surprises me how many people have never been on a farm. Take people onto a farm, have a conversation as they stand there watching the cows or watching the combine or talking to the pretty sheep. You know, whatever. It's a conversation. Food choices, a very emotive issue. I was in Westminster a couple of weeks ago arguing with some members of Parliament, and they were talking about the food issue and the current challenge to do with fertilizer and energy, thanks to what's going on in the Middle East. And one of the comments I made is, we will not starve. And they said, but we won't get our food. I said, we will have plenty of calories. It's just not everyone wants to live on turnips and potatoes and English beer, but we will survive. And that's the difference. We have to understand sustainable food choices and the choices we make. Transport. We all know this on this call, but again, there's a conversation out getting people to make different choices. And for me, working with industry and society linked to industry for a sustainable future, getting people to run training programs. In the UK, I've just had the first carbon literacy course for directors signed off, and I'm now starting to roll that out. Don't tell anybody. I'm going to have to charge something, but I'm actually quite prepared to do it for nothing. But don't tell them that. You know, I just need to get out there and get more of this taking place so we have informed decision making. That's part of this conversation. And we need to look at what we can do about carbon footprints. Everybody talks about it. What are we doing? What are we doing as Rotary? UK is not in bad shape, but we can still do more. And everybody can still do more. I am not holding up any one of us as an example of anything perfect, because we are all deeply flawed in our own wonderful way, as Monty Python should have said. You know, there's a real conversation there. And we can think about what we mean by green technology. What do we mean? What is green technology? And taking action. The role of Rotarians in our clubs, our zones, our districts. What are we doing? Sustainability of practice and policy for a more sustainable future. And thinking about it and sharing it, calling it out. Why do we not car share? Why are we flying to meetings? And so I go on. We have choices, my friends. Choices. I only hope we have time to make the choices for the next generation. For me, I would argue that education to everyone, so we all have an agreed language and a framework for this dialogue, is key. Rotary is all about helping, supporting and training the next generation, and industry must innovate to go forward, to be responsible. If we are going to have a legacy and think about footsteps in the sand, and I can still remember why I go to the sand, by the way, but only just, there's a conversation there. Think about what we leave behind us, because some needs do not change. Maslow's hierarchy is real and is still with us. We can think about this, and as societies, we've been writing about this for 1,000 years. We need to think about this, because today there's opportunity for all of us to make a difference and for Rotary to lead that difference in all sorts of ways. Business as usual cannot be enough, and that includes for Rotary. Mahatma Gandhi was purported to have said, "You must be the change you want to see in the world." And I share this as an absolutely inspirational quote. I would argue the future is created by what we do today. And the important thing is to start for a bright future for all of us. And I know there are lots and lots of questions. I've got very few answers, my friends, but I'm happy to discuss anything. Thank you.
Wow, Geoff,
Wow.
that was amazing. That was just
Geoff,
absolutely amazing. That was
thank
just
you
wonderful. That's,
so.
yeah, really spoke to us, huh? That was great. Thank you.
25 minutes.
Oh, great.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Okay, so we're going to do two little activities, but I want everyone who's with us to please write down your questions for the moment because I don't want you to forget them. This is just too important. Hold on to those. Geoff, will you be able to stay a little bit after the hour?
The honest answer is I'm very happy to sit here as long as a man and a digger doesn't appear.
Okay.
If a man and a
Okay.
digger appears outside the house, I'll have to go.
Well, I I think that makes a lot of sense. Najodi, would you like to share screen? And she's on mute, but she's gonna. And oh my gosh, you look beautiful today. You always look beautiful, but you look. But we have a little something, Geoff. We love our speakers so much, and you inspire us. You keep us going, and you keep us on the right track. You keep us fighting the good fight. You keep us networked and closer together. Najodi, you want to share? Okay. You're on mute, dear. So many controls.
I'm sharing the screen.
It's amazing that someone in India can share their screen with everyone, all of us, all over the globe. Who would have thought?
Is my screen is visible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. What a presentation, excellent session. Actually, I'm taking care of the chat and there are some things I need to put earlier records and all. But this presentation is so excellent that I was, I just, how much I am trying to concentrate that much, it is going deeper and deeper and matlab like each and every slide was so excellent. Thank you for your excellent presentation. So this is our certificate on behalf of each and every participant who joined our today's meeting, as well as everybody is going to see. Whoever not joined, they are going to join through YouTube and Spotify, and they are going to have a website blog detail, which is Laurie is going to prepare, and there are many more things. Even Karen, me, and Laurie, we all are preparing the documentation and sharing with you. This email I'm going to send you, and we are very much happy and glad. And we would like to in recognition of your generous contribution as a guest speaker at Earth Talks, a weekly global dialogue hosted by our Rotary Earth Network Club. We sincerely appreciate your contribution. Thank you so much, Jeff. So let us see our next, uh, 1 second. Our next presentation will be with Renas Raimundo. So who is going to give us a presentation on roots of change and restoring Brazil, one tree at a time. This will be another excellent session, same as today, same day, same time. Link will be shared, and I'm going to share the link into the chat. If you want to register, you can register now itself. And this is our Sky Bridge project, which is actually taken care by Laurie, everyone, and Laurie, Karen, and Christopher Stein. And I'm going to share the link into the chat. Please register and share your projects in this. Thank you so much. So I'm just stopping my screen. Excellent, excellent presentation.
Najoti, thank you so much. And again, I asked everyone to please hold on to your questions, and also want to do a preface that Niraj, are you ready to speak? Would you like, Niraj is going to give us, let me see if I can highlight him. I'm trying to spotlight. Let's see. Niraj, can you share? There you go. Share your screen. I know you were going to give us our project teaser at the beginning, but if you could do that now. Also, I want everyone to know that beautiful flyer that Najoti just shared. Niraj is on Chris Stein's Project Skybridge team. And Niraj created that. And he does so much of the graphics. He's amazing. So Niraj, do you want to take away and give us your project teaser for just a few moments, and then we'll head back to Geoff and ask our questions. Niraj, you're on mute. You'll need to unmute yourself. Hi, Niraj, are you there? We'll give just one more
Just
second.
wait, Laurie. I am calling.
Well, I think, you know what? I think while we're waiting for Niraj to join us, let's go ahead and ask at least one or two more questions. Let me remove that spotlight there. Okay. Do we have any questions? I'm looking for hands up. I'm not seeing them. Oh, Roger does.
Yes, thank you, Lori. As most of you know, I make plastic solar cookers. And it occurs to me listening to this conversation and seeing that Geoff is in the plastic industry. I wonder whether the plastic industry has something set up to kind of mitigate their bad publicity about being plastics, and whether they might want to support plastic solar cookers. I've not found any alternative to using plastic for my cookers. So I think I need to keep doing that. But it also seems to me that the plastics industry might want to consider subsidizing me. What do you think?
The easy answer, Roger, is if you send me across the details, I will certainly put you in touch and stay in the loop with some of the right people And I don't know your project, but it all sounds good to me. And that's always a good starting point. So very happy to get involved. Thank you.
What is your email address? Is that somewhere on here?
I'll pop it into the chat.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Oh, that's great because, yeah, Roger does such good work with that. Much,
He makes
much appreciated.
phenomenal cookers, solar cookers. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other, please add your other comments, raise your hands because we have learned so much. Christopher Forster, please ask your question.
Yes, Geoff. Mine is not a question, it's an answer to something you asked. I know what a farm is. And in fact, where I grew up, everybody has a backyard. And, we didn't, when I was a little boy growing up, we didn't have to buy peppers or tomatoes and stuff from the market. We grew our own. And I had a little fruit tree that greedy little boy, I was about 13 years old. I would count the number of fruit that were on the tree as I went to school. And when I came home, I'd count them again to make sure nobody has had their way without my permission. But what I do for the environment, I'm very much into that, is that I use reusable bags wherever I go shopping. They're always in my car, and I don't take plastic bags when I go shopping. And I'm known in my city for not taking plastic bags in the 3 or places before I go. So I think everyone in our own small way can do something to actually have a positive effect or minimize our carbon footprint on the environment. So I thank you very much for your inspiring talk. It's given me a lot of things to think about. Thank you.
Oh, Christopher, thank you. Yeah, Roger, or Geoff, yeah. That is so appreciate that. Lily. Lily, do you want to unmute?
Welcome, Lily. She is from our club, Claudia and mine,
Oh,
Innovation Club.
Lily Marshall, do you want to unmute and you can ask your question? There you go.
I have two questions, if you don't mind, if any of you can answer them. So we have talked about terminology, and I just wondered whether it was worth making like a dictionary, like a poster with some of the terminology that we could display in certain places. I could take them to my local museum. I could put them in my waiting room, because like you say, people are confused by what it means. So if we know what it means, we can often do something about it. So that's one of the things. That would be a positive output for the discussion on misterminology. And my other question is, I'm really upset at the moment because war is happening everywhere. And I don't know if anybody else has thought about this, but I think about it a lot because my garden is very peaceful. But recently I had a helicopter go over and I was quite shocked. I wondered what had gone on in my garden because every creature in the garden took off. They were not used to helicopters. And all I could think of is what's happened to the wildlife all over the world where there are war zones. We never discuss them in the environment. And just the other day, it was promoted on the BBC how in Russia had dropped 1,400 drones in 24 hours. And all I know is they're made of plastic, and that plastic is going to fall to the floor and it's going to get mixed in with the soil. So we have a problem from the past, but we're now creating a problem for the future. And I just wondered if there's anyone had noticed that, read about it, thought about it, and can we make an impact at this early stage on the use of drones and plastic?
People want to comment? Because I do have one comment too, Lily, to that. But others first. What is your take? Well, I'm going to jump in. And if you go to, I'll have to double check. It's called Environmental Experience. It was a conference that happened about 4 weeks ago, led by Steve Binder, one of our big proponents. And within that, his brother it's called Democracy in a Box. They had a panel from Ukraine that spoke at this conference. And they talked about how war affects it, and our environment, to what you say, and their things to do, how to survive, how to keep going. So, again, environmental experience, and look for also democracy in a box.
Thank you.
Well, and let me show this out here. In this club and in this forum, would any of you, just put a note in the chat if you might be interested in having that particular panel from Ukraine? They had a female officer, they had two diplomats, a scientist, I believe a politician. So if you're interested in that, I'm pretty sure we could get them to come and speak here to us.
Mhm.
Just let me know in the chat. Other comments on that? Ideas? Anna Marie. Thank you, Lily.
It's a very simple consideration, my consideration. About footprint and CO2 and so on. During the winter, we say don't eat too much the apartment, take care and so. Now here in Milan, we are around 88 Fahrenheit. It's very, very hot. But everywhere you can see the air conditioned on. And no one is saying anything because if eating an apartment, okay, it's a problem. But the same problem you create if you turn on the air conditioner. And probably it's more risky to enter a very cool place, a department store or a restaurant, very, very cool, instead of accepting the situation. Now we have a very warm spring, but we can't spend so much time and air, good air, just to freeze. Thank you. And no one is saying anything. I didn't see or hear any advice about this. Thank you.
Geoff, would you like to respond to that, to Anna Marie's?
One of the realities of footprints is it means different things depending on where you are and where your starting point is. I was brought up in a house where my father would use words, put a jumper on in the winter. And I know it sounds desperately old fashioned, but that's a reality. One of the businesses I ran, I actually gave all the staff a fleecy jacket. And actually, one of the reasons for that was because the staff was male and female, and it wasn't possible to get one temperature in the building to suit everyone for all sorts of reasons that we can discuss. And one of the ways to deal with that was give everyone a jacket. And I think sometimes we have to be practical and pragmatic to how to think about these things. The other part of the conversation when we talk about footprinting and consumption is some really simple things like no waste and reuse. I know something that I haven't bored Dawn with recently is we're starting a repair cafe, our Rotary Club. And something like that is just such an easy give me. And having been and worked at one, it was horrifying how low the level of entry points there were for a lot of people. You could fix all sorts of things. So I honestly just, a long-winded answer to your question, we can all do a bit.
Yes, so much. I agree. I'm going to take David's question. And for those of you who want to stay online, Niraj, would you still be able to do your project teaser? And we'll record it too, so I can send it out to people afterward.
Hi.
So Niraj, can we do your project teaser after David for anyone who can stay online?
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. David, please ask your question. You were so patient.
Laurie, thanks. It's not a question, but it's rather a comment. Lily brought up the question about war. I put in the chat the documentary that Abby Martin from the US has produced on the world's greatest enemy, and it happens to be the US military. And people should see that. It's available. And the other thing is, Laurie, what is happening in Gaza is an ecocide. And, we're getting into the realm of politics, but I think that, that's part of the issue. And we need to be aware that we can talk about all the great stuff that Jeff's talked about today, and everybody here is on board. But politics, military, that type of stuff is creating such an effect. And we as the average citizen really have little to do. We can't do very much for that. And maybe Jeff, you might just want to delve into that. Maybe not. I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff. Oh, I'm looking. Are you still here with us? Yes. Jeff, what do you think of what David said?
Yeah. The honest answer is I've just had 2 minutes offline telling a man to wait till I finish this call. David, I'm really sorry. Could you repeat your question?
Sorry, Jeff. I was just talking about mentioning the effect of the U.S. military, which creates an incredible amount of pollution, etc. There was a 2-hour documentary produced by Abby Martin, the world's greatest enemy. And in addition to that, we know that in Gaza, it's an ecocide. So, we as average citizens around the world really can't do much with regard to that. And it's unfortunate. But I just wonder if you might want to say something about that. It seems to be the white elephant in the room that, we're trying to do all these things, but there's large, corporations, money, politics are controlling stuff that we really can't have an effect on.
I can't disagree with your sentiment or what you've said. I certainly wouldn't comment on anybody else's military. I do know that I went to a presentation about a year ago where an arms manufacturer happily was talking about the carbon footprint of their fighter bomber aeroplane and how they had reduced it. And they didn't see the irony in my question of what's the point in reducing the carbon footprint when it's designed to kill people. And I was dead serious about it. It's got a wry smile when I said it, but we need to take a breath on some of this. And the question of ecocide, the question of homicide, and what our states do is part of this conversation. We have to make people realize that we can all make different choices in all sorts of ways. Part of the conversation when we're talking about energy, of course, is, and David, this is not a conversation for now, it's a 3-week conversation and a conference, is how we defossilize our society, because then perhaps we'd stop fighting over things.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff, I'm going to add something to that. I see that Chris Stein is on the call, and Joanna Jurdy is as well. Chris is working with Tim Berg, who is, I believe he's an associate member of our club through Operation Pollination. And they're putting together a big event in Colorado where they want to work with the Air Force Academy and some military academies to build bridges and talk about the environment, the military, and the environment. Since the environment affects the military affects, to talk about positive ways to deal with that. And on the issue of peace, I think it's behoove all of us to please go back to Joanna Jurdy's presentation to us. She's from Lebanon, and it is about using the laws of nature, biomimicry. And if we organize ourselves around the laws of nature, because actually, guess what? We're all part of nature. And if we live according to the laws of nature, we wouldn't be having a lot of these problems. She's got in that for your Rotary clubs, she has a form you can fill out to see how is my club doing biomimicry. So, Geoff, this is your presentation, and it relates to Joanna's as well, things that all of us can do. Sorry, went off on
No,
that.
no, that's excellent, Laura. That was a great
Okay, so
connection. We should
we-
let Geoff go,
we
though.
need we need to
because
let Geoff
needs to
go, and we
Yes.
do need to get Niraj's.
And we'll get Niraj on.
Jeff, maybe I
Fantastic,
can
Geoff.
answer one of the points that you made. You said, how can I go for a fossil fuel free society? I recently was one of the funders for the treaty, the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, which was rather successful. It was organized by the Netherlands and I believe Peru in South America. 56 countries joined, and next year 2 small island states will be totally fossil fuel. So that is a nice one to take a look at, because it's small island states, but we got to start somewhere, and I think they can do it as first, and what they do, we can learn from it, and we can go into a positive feedback loop, and if we are in that positive feedback loop, then things can happen really quickly, I noticed.
Wow, Bertel, thank you so much. Geoff, I know you have to go. You have been so kind to stay late. We so appreciate you. And for anyone who can stay, do you have any final words before I pass the baton to Niraj? Geoff, any final words before I pass the baton to Niraj?
It's up to all of us to fight the good fight. It's lovely to meet everybody. If I can help in any way, I'm only an email away.
I would like Geoff to stay on.
Thank you.
I would like Geoff to stay on.
Oh, okay. Please. Good.
Well, okay. I think he has another meeting.
Okay. So, Niraj, let me spotlight you. Just a moment. There we go. Okay, Niraj.
Yes, thanks, Laurie, thanks, Karen. And it was so nice to hear Geoff speaking about the climate change and the education and the mindset, actually, And I would like to start off telling everybody that God has been very generous and kind, and especially Rotary, to have given me an opportunity to talk about climate change crisis. It's not all about environment. It's also a mindset and a communication challenge, And I think that's what Geoff was trying to tell us across that. And, it was very interesting hearing it, all those points. And I feel, my own personal feeling, for all these years that have gone by, is that, the climate change, basically, if you ask me, starts from your own self. A human being is the living example for everything. Whatever happens around us affects the climate change. I'm a human being, right? And around me, I have food, I have electricity, I have energy, I have everything around me, transportation. So if I control my own mindset, if I control my own being and my own responsibility toward the environment, I can make a big effect in the whole world. It's like, it's like a ripple effect, which is going to happen. It has to start from every individual, if you ask me. We cannot, of course, the government does play a major role. The policies do make a difference, yes, but the government can't come and be in your doorstep or inside your house every day, every time. Not possible. So the topic that we have to discuss at Taiwan is this factor that every individual, every human being, every family has to contribute, has to have a change in mindset to contribute to combat the climate crisis. This is my own belief in life, which I just realized about 2 days back. why everything is happening in the whole world is because of me, myself. It's me which is responsible for everything which is happening around me. If I don't waste food, if I have vegan plate twice a week, if I don't waste, if I don't use plastic, if I manage my plastic waste, if I manage my e-waste, it all starts from me and my family. So if we start educating families and individuals, I can assure you, within 1 year, a lot of problems will be sorted out. Because what happens is, when we have the rains coming in, when the rain falls on top of your rooftop, the drop of the water, which has to travel from your rooftop to the ocean, travels a long way, and we don't treat that molecule of water properly. That is why all these problems for the climate is happening. And these are the topics that we are discussing at Recon. So this is where I feel, like we have to start telling our own selves first, look, I have a responsibility towards the climate and towards other human beings and towards every God's creation, and that takes care of your animals, the other human beings, the water, the trees, the shrubs, and everything out. So once I feel that I have a responsibility towards God's creation, I can assure you we'll be able to combat climate crisis. I would like to, ask people to ask me some questions regarding this, what exactly that I have in mind, and maybe they can put forward their points, which maybe I could carry over to Recon and, tell people around, their viewpoint, because it's very important to know other people's viewpoints and carry it out to the other people, actually. And in this session that we're doing there, we're trying to have a partnership with about 100 districts in the world. And we've already had 40 till now. We've already come on board, where we will be sharing whatever we have learned and whatever happens at the conference, at the session, we're going to share it with everybody.
Niraj,
So
thank you
everyone.
so
Sorry.
much. Thank you so much. So we'll be sharing that at RICON. Do you want to put your booth number, because the graphics that you had are so amazing, and we want to share those with the blog. But could you give a brief summary of what your talk is going to be about at RICON, so anyone who's going or knows people who are going can go to your talk and come to your booth? What you're doing is amazing. We need to participate.
Thank you. In fact, we have designed a questionnaire, which we will be posting it for everybody. And that questionnaire talks about the climate change and the crisis and how they can combat everything out. That should be in the mail by tomorrow or by WhatsApp to everybody. And through my website also that we have run, especially the website that we have developed is called The Climate Belongs to All. So that concept, it is not mine or yours. It belongs to everybody. Every single individual in the world is responsible for whatever is happening. It's very, very important, that people should realize that it's not me or you, it is the whole world is responsible for what is happening now. And if the whole world is brought on one platform and they're told, look, you need to think and combat and, have a mindset change, it will happen. I'm sure about this part. I'm very sure about it.
Niraj, thank you so much. Everyone, please tell if you're not going to RICON, and I know many of us aren't simply because of the carbon footprint, so good on us. But if you know others who are, or have to, whatever, please go to booth 635. Niraj has some wonderful things, including he's going to be sharing Chris Stein and Niraj's team, their project Skybridge. And at his talk, his panel is fabulous. So please look for that in your WhatsApp chats and in your emails. Niraj, any closing words before I close out our meeting?
We have to develop the concept of individual environment responsibility.
Amen.
We must start believing in that. That is my last word for all of us, that individual environment responsibility is what we have to practice.
Amen. Amen. And that includes where we vote or how we, help our communities form what they do as well. That's our individual
Yes.
responsibility too. Yeah.
Yes.
What a wonderful session. Please, any other comments, even thank you or whatever for the good of the order?
Sorry,
I would say
there is
thank you
one
for.
question in the chat.
Oh,
There is
there's
one question in the chat.
okay,
Oh.
Najodi, yes.
Yeah.
Question for Niraj. Yeah, Sebastian, do you want to ask that or I'll read it?
Yeah.
Sebastian, you read it. Yes, you read it.
In Raj said, if I don't use plastic, that would make a big difference. And I recently got a plastic bag from India, and it was made. I was surprised how heavy it's made. So I'm wondering if that really pays off.
Today, you will not believe it, Sebastian, that today in the evening, 2 hours back, I was having a discussion with somebody. You see, in the world, we have different sections of society. People like us don't constitute more than 1% of the society. And if you really look at the whole thing, and 1% of the society cannot stop, even if you stop using single-use plastic or anything like this, it will not make a difference. What I realized today, suddenly, it just dawned on me. We can't stop everybody in the world. There are, in India, we have 65% population lives in the rural areas. And another 30% people live in the tier 1, tier 2 cities who are not bothered about all these things. They are so busy working every day for their livelihood, they cannot be involved in this. So now, what is required is how do we circumvent this whole situation? How do we tackle the situation? Is by waste management. If you ask me, the main solution, the only solution to the entire problem in the world is the waste management. You can't stop a common man. You can't stop the urban poor from not wasting or not for using not using plastic. It's not possible because plastic is the cheapest product that they can use for packaging or for their daily use. So the government and people like us, Rotary, we should have more effective methods of collection of waste and disposal of waste. If you ask me personally, I'm an engineer by profession. I'm 72 years old. I'm telling that age of mine is 72 years. I've been consulting for 40 years, and my study of projects tells me only one thing. It has to be the waste management. No other way it can happen. See, people like us, if we talk to each other, that look, let's not waste anything, but it will not make a dent anywhere. We have to educate people. We have to create the awareness. If every club, every district in the world, we have about 540, 550 districts. If everybody starts deploying waste picking pickup trucks everywhere, the global grant should be that. I'm telling you, we're going to have a big solution coming up for that. That is the only way I personally feel for everything out.
Wow. Wow.
All right, we should close this out.
We should. I do want to say, Joanna, are you there? We miss you. How are you? Can you put your picture on?
Yes.
So we can see
Yeah, I'm
you?
putting my video. Hi, how are you?
Oh,
Great to see you.
hugs.
It's always uplifting to see you. How are you?
Oh, we are so happy to see you. Joanna's in one of those other war-torn countries, and I just want you to know that at that big environmental experience, we were giving out your questionnaire to clubs because it was so good.
Oh, great. I'm glad.
And today's presentation was correlating with you, Joanna.
Yes. You asked me what was correlating, and I didn't understand what you said.
Your presentations relate.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Today's
Yeah.
and yours. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was late to this presentation. I didn't get to see it all, but I'm going to see the video.
That's fine. And
Yeah.
Mark has a question too, but Joanna, please feel hugged. It's just so good to see you.
I just want to give a shout out to Roger Haynes and his solar.
Yes.
My club's participated in a couple projects, and one of the things that I noticed the most about the data that comes back from projects is not only how effectively they're taught how to use the products, but how sustainable they are, and how long people and how much people continue to use them over time in indigent communities. So I'm impressed, Roger.
Thank you. Thank you.
It doesn't cost us that much to do either. We've participated with about 8 other clubs, and it's been fairly easy and painless and not even a grant situation. And we've done a lot of good. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes. Yes. Oh man, that's why we're here. That's such good news, Mark, Roger. Thank you. Well, guys, I don't know about you, but I'm guessing you have it's a late night where you are, or you got things to go to. I can't tell you on behalf of Karen and I and Najoti, the three of us, how much we just love being together and
Yep.
hope you do too.
Wonderful group. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Be well. We'll see you
Have a
next
good day.
week.